Hello everybody and welcome back to Punting Pioneer. I'm Corbin Hosler with Cool Stuff as always, and this week we are showing off elves in the format. That's right, it's a modern deck, it's a legacy deck, it's a pauper deck, not a standard deck right now, but it is definitely a pioneer deck. Elves, everybody. So you'll recognize a lot of these cards. I mean, after all, these are cards that are iconic to Magic. Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, kind of the same thing. Dwynen's Elite. We've seen these cards throughout history and decks. We've seen them win Pro Tours even in the day. And now the deck has made its way to Pioneer. So there are a lot of the staples for Modern that you're missing. The entire Lorwyn block, right? We don't have Heritage Druid or any of those other elves that came from that block that really form the key of the deck. But instead, we do have a deck that works out quite well. And you know what? We get to play some fun new ones. So working through the deck here, it's basically what you expect. It's an elves deck. We're going to cast Collected Company. We're going to put some elves into play. So let's just work over it here. So we got the 8-mana dorks you expect, and then one you might not. Gnarlroot Trapper. So this is a weird little card, right, from Magic Origins here, but you get to pay a life, add green. You can only spend it on elves, okay? So it's sort of a conditional ramp spell, but this is the big one. Tap it to give an elf you control that's attacking Death Touch, and in a deck full of small creatures, that's pretty relevant as it turns out. Moving up the curve here, Elvish Clancaller. This one is sweet. It is a lord that goes and gets other lords. Elvish Visionary cycles you through your deck. Dwynen's Elite fills the board with elves by making a 1/1 if you have another elf, all of which fuels your Shaman of the pack. Everything we're doing here, we put a lot of elves into play. Shaman of the pack. Target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control. So Steel Leaf Champion, randomly an elf. It's a big one, right? Not used to seeing elves this big, but 5/4, this beats down. It's very easy to play this card on turn 2. Start attacking, make it easy for your Shamans to finish them off later. So Marwyn here, you get a very big Marwyn. I mean, this is not Elvish Archdruid, which adds a bunch of mana and grows your team, but it grows itself and adds a bunch of mana. Still pretty good. We even get a Dwynen, Gilt-Leaf, I don't know how to say that word, Daen, whatever. It's Dwynen. She comes in, she pumps the team, and whenever she attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking elf you control. So lots working here. We've even got a Growing Rites of Itlimoc, because why not? This card's just fun. Collected Company ties it all together. It's a straightforward elves deck, but you know what? It works. This 5-0's Magic Online Pioneer leagues regularly. It can do it all. So onto the sideboard. You notice we do have the black mana. It's only for 2 cards in the main deck, but here in the sideboard we get Duresses, you get Fatal Pushes, and I put this one in here because I love it. Stain the Mind. Your opponent getting you down with some sort of combo card, well, you convoke all those elves, ramp this thing out, take them all away. So we got Nylea's Disciple here against the red decks, gain life. Rex Sage where you need it, Shaper's Sanctuary against removal. And I like this one, Mistcutter Hydra. Not much better to sink a bunch of mana into than a giant Hydra that cannot be countered, has haste and protection from blue. So there you go, everybody. It is Elves. It is Pioneer. I'm Corbin Hosler. Let's get right to the matches. All right, here we go. It is time for some Elves action here on Punting Pioneer. And you know what? This hand seems pretty solid to start out with. We get to play this. We get to run out at Llanowar Elves on turn 1, as you always want. And then, you know what? Probably curve this Marwyn into a company, and we're off to the races after that, right? That's the plan. So the Marwyn's pretty cool. It adds power. It adds green mana equal to its power. So whenever another elf enters, you get 1 counter on it. So it always adds at least 1 mana, but it can add quite a bit more. So as you can see here, though, our opponent has wild slashed our first elf down. So we'll have to take a turn off here, unfortunately, but then we have Marwyn, and we know what? We have our 4th land for Collected Company. So I'd say that we are operating according to plan. And our opponent, I can't say I expected this. We were wild slashed. Okay, that made sense. Gingerbrute follow-up, huh? All right, interesting. I'm in. See where that goes, I guess. Play out our Marwyn and pass the turn. So depending on how this goes, we could just collect a company in our main phase, so we could then add 3 mana with this, but it would just be green, so we wouldn't be able to cast the Shaman. So probably just going to pass the turn back to our opponent here no matter what. Alright, so our opponent is playing this deck's cool. So they play Scissors, the Ensoul Artifact. So they play cards like Gingerbrute, 1/1, Haste, and then they turn it into a 5/5, either the Skilled Animator or so on. So hey, this is actually kind of low-key a problem, right? We are going to have to figure out how exactly we want to go about this here. I'm going to attack. I suspect my opponent won't block. If they do, that works out pretty well for us. In theory, we'd be able to take this thing down, turn this back into a 1-1. This is almost a pure race here, but our opponent, you know what, actually is going to go for it. So let's hope we don't get unlucky on this Collected Company. Oh, that's pretty good, as a matter of fact. So got some Visionaries, we got some Elites. I think I want the Elite and the Visionary. So this is pretty great for us. So we've got all these triggers you can see here. And because of this Dwynen's Elite trigger, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, our Marwyn will actually be a 4/4 and we'll take this down quite easily. So, yep, that is how that works. So, all right, Skilled Animator down. We have a Chump Blocker with the token here for the Ginger Brute. We've got another Visionary in hand that we drew off the Visionary to draw more cards, and we're starting to build our board up for a big Shaman of the Pact. So we've got a lot of options here next turn. We'll see what our opponent does with... They could always keep turning this into a 5/5. I mean, they got a ton that they can do. They're going to go ahead and shock themselves down to 16. And we'll see where they go from there. Good news is we have Reclamation Sages. There's the Insult, so it's a 5/5 again. We have Reclamation Sages in our sideboard. We have Fatal Pushes. Yeah, I like where we're at post-board here. And I am happy to get a Chump Block in here while I can. Alright. We didn't take damage from it. It's tapped. I mean, that's about as good as it gets for us, really. Our opponent is down to 3 cards in hand. And we get to see what we can do. Looks like mana not going to be our issue here. Well, I say that, and they petty theft away our Marwyn. So that actually kind of changes it. There's a company, though. I do like that. Yeah, I mean, I think the play is probably pretty straightforward here. We play Marwyn. Then I likely am supposed to play the Visionary, I think. We'll just go a little slow here, but it sets us up for a big turn next turn. Play out the Visionary, get all of these triggers in there. Found another land. That doesn't do a ton for us, but hey, we get a punch in for 3, put our opponent down to 13 life. We get an untap, and we will have a lot. Drawing company there was great, as it always is. You know, it makes me so sad that Modern is a format where Collected Company is somehow too slow these days, but Pioneer, Collected Company is reborn, and it is still extremely good. So it's just a perfect card. It's a 4 mana, it's a fair green card, you know, it's the kind of green card that makes sense for green. It's not a free spell like Once Upon a Time or something like that. It's not Oko that's just crazy powerful. It's just a good, straightforward, let's play fair magic green card. I love it. So we can... Any 1-mana elf, including this Gnarlroot Trapper, basically is a break-even with the Marwyn here. So we have quite a few options. I think I'll start by doing this. This kills us. So if they bring this in, that's 8. So I definitely don't want to shock myself here. Seems like that would be a poor plan for us. Yeah. This is what we do. Okay, so we get 4 mana out of this. I think I'm supposed to keep some of the green mana. Now, the reason I'm doing all of this pre-combat is because if my opponent has tricks, you know, I want to get everything I can out of this Marwyn while we can before we end up moving to combat. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 4 mana from this. I think that's the right play. I think Casting Company is, given that we're, in theory, not dead next turn. I mean, I guess another Wild Slash would change that math, but I'm kind of hoping we can just somehow put together enough to kill our opponent here. But let's go ahead and fire off the Company using this colorless mana as best we can and see what we hit here. Okay, so another Marwyn and a Clancaller. So Clancaller, definitely what I want. I don't want the other Marwyn. Note it is legendary. Alright, got a bunch of triggers here. But now we have the perfect amount of mana to follow up with a big Shaman of the Pack. And then we attack. So I think this works out pretty well for us. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to get... I mean, that's a lot of damage for our opponent to take here. They're down to 4. And now they're going to need something special to stay in this game because we're coming in with enough damage here. So they're going to need a removal spell for the Clancaller. But even then, it's still 4. So I think my opponent actually needs... Because this has to tap. Yeah, they actually would have needed the ability to deal with 2 creatures here. They didn't have it. We took down Ensoul Artifact in the first game. Now on to the next one. I think this is good for us. I mean, our entire deck seems... Our entire sideboard seems pretty good against them, right? Yeah, I don't know how to sideboard with the deck. I'll be honest about that. I don't see them doing a ton of blocking. We can likely cut some of the mana dorks here. I don't know. You're supposed to cut Growing Rites, probably. It's a slower card. I gotta cut something, right? I like the idea of just gaining 6 or 7 life. It does seem somewhat relevant, especially on the draw. Yeah, this is generally... I sideboard like this a lot in Pioneer, it seems, and I'm not sure if it's absolutely the correct thing to do. But I like... When you don't know a deck particularly well, and look, every week I play a new deck. I'm trying to figure them out. So what I like to do is cut down on the numbers of the cards rather than just decide that I know what's best and I'm going to cut all 4 of this. So sometimes you can do that. But sometimes, you know, I like to just go down to 3 instead of 4 so I can figure out what's good and what's bad in the matchup. And, you know, if we get into the match and I see something that's different than expectations, well, at least we still have the out in our deck of the card. I'd rather, you know, have it somewhere in there and have a slightly worse sideboard than what could be optimal than I would need something that it not be there at all. So that's my philosophy, at least when I'm trying to figure out decks. And then you refine that as you practice more, get experience in the matchups, etc. And that's sort of the difference between, you know, someone like me playing a new deck every week and showing them off for these series, and someone who decides, hey, I love Elves. I love Elves and Pioneer. I like what you're showing me here. I'm going to take this deck. I'm going to work with it. You know, that's when you get further in, you figure out for yourself what works and what doesn't in a given matchup. Okay, so got some options here. I think I like doing this. This way, if my opponent has an Ensoul, we still just get to untap and push it, or we get to Rec Sage it. I mean, either way, this is ugly for my opponent, right? This is a pretty good... This has to be a good matchup for us. Yeah, and there comes the Ensoul Artifact. So, yeah, you're going to get in there for 5 this turn. I'm down to 14, but the 2-for-1 is coming. And not only is the 2-for-1 coming, the 2-for-1 leaves a 2-1 on board for me. So it might even be a 3-for-1 by the time it's all said and done. Rec Sage, target the Ginger Brute. I would like to use that ability magic online. There you go. Clean 2-for-1. Our opponent's down to 4 cards. I mean, this deck is cool, but, you know, Ensoul Artifact has to enchant an artifact, and they did not hit their Darksteel Citadel, which you can do. They went for the Ginger Brute to get more damage in right away. We punished them with the Rec Sage there. So now we get to untap. I have a ton of options available to us here. First thing I'm going to do is attack. Okay, so here's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go for the Gnarlroot Trapper. Then I think I'm going to go for the Dwynen's Elite. I'm going to keep up Fatal Push. I don't know what our opponent has going on. If it's nothing, this is great for us, right? If they have sweepers, we still get to untap with a Collected Company, although I guess we'd have to find a 4th land, but I was just going to Ether Gust our Dwynen's Elite, huh? Sure, I mean... Sure, I'll put it on top. Why not, I guess. Something like Anger of the Gods is probably what we're most afraid of. You know, your basic Pyroclasm effect here. I don't mind, you know, if my opponent has more creatures to try to attack us, that's good for us. I just don't want them to, yeah, the skilled Animator. Actually pretty decent for them, right? They get to turn the Darksteel into a 5/5. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Chump Block. And I'm going to have Revolt for this Fatal Push. Only target creature with CMC 4 or less. Okay. I believe that's what I want to do. I hope I did this right. Okay, we did it. So, Skilled Animator down, Darksteel, Citadel, back to the bin. And you know what? Let's just go for this, I guess. Since now there's no other way to be efficient by casting our Dwynen's Elite, let's just run out the Dwynen Gilt-Leaf, whatever. Get in for 3 here. This is a 3/4. This crucially survives Anger of the Gods. And most other things, right? The Lightning Strike. There's not a ton of 4 damage spells, I guess, unless say it's something like, you know, a Lava Coil to get it. 3 cards in hand for our opponent, and us with 2, one of them being a Collected Company. I'm feeling pretty good here, especially if they just pass the turn back. Sure, that's it. They're going to Ether Gust the Dwynen's Elite. Sure, makes sense. This is great for us. I mean, and the Wild Slash. Ah, the Wild Slash at the beginning of combat even. I guess I fire off the Company. This is the way to be the most mana efficient, is to just cast the Collected Company now, because otherwise we'd have 3 mana and we're wasting mana. Also, since the Ether Gust hasn't resolved, I can do this and still end up with that on top of my deck. And you know what? I can get the... Well, this is great all around, really. I think I want the Steel Leaf and the Shaman. So the Clancaller would make this a 3 toughness, meaning Wild Slash would not kill it immediately, but once the Dwynen goes on top of our deck, it would still die. So I'm going to go ahead and just get the Shaman here. Let's just do all the damage to our opponent that we can right now. I mean, this knocks them for 5. And they do kind of clear out my board here. Put that on top. But hey, we're coming in for putting them down to 3, and we have multiple lethal creatures on board. So our opponent's out of cards. I think we're going to get there. Elves rolling over the Ensoul Artifact there, everybody. Elves and Pioneer. I love it. Sometimes you just got to play some green creatures and beat down. Collected Company is a hell of a card. I'm happy to be casting it again. All right, let's jump into the next one. All right, here we go with more Elves. Another keeper here. We get to play this Unclaimed Territory, run out our Elvish Mystic, and hey, play a turn 2 Marwyn. Pretty good, right? Gnarlroot Trapper is such a cool card. I remember vaguely drafting this occasionally in Magic Origins when you'd opened up a Shaman of the Pack, you'd try to get Black-Green Elves. It's kind of a throwback to, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but there's I think it's a black elf out of like Cold Snap or something that Elves of Deep Shadow? Yeah, I think it's a green elf that adds black mana or something, and this might be the inverse. Or it's a functional reprint. Either way, you paid a life to make the mana. It's kind of a throwback to that, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so our opponent likely with some kind of removal ready to go over there playing black-white, but that might work out for us because we have 2 Marwyns here, so it's really not a big deal if they, you know, they're going to use their removal spells one way or another. Let's get them to use it on the legendary creature that we have a backup of. And as it turns out, that's exactly what they're going to do. Erebos' Intervention to take it down. So played out, I'm not going to say as we wanted necessarily. I'd rather just untap with it. But, you know, that's a lot better than, say, you know, we had played the Clancaller or something there, right? If we had played Clancaller plus Gnarlroot Trapper, and then our opponent has a removal spell, and we have 2 Marwyns in hand, doesn't really work out. So our opponent on Esper control over there. And they're going to Detention Sphere this Marwyn. All right, fair enough. Don't know much about this matchup. I know we have Collected Company, which I like a lot. I also have a Growing Rites of Itlimoc. All right, I got to read this one. I know what the back is. The back end is a Gaia's Cradle. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4. You get a creature and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So, okay, fair enough. I think what I'm going to do is... And then you transform it if you have 4 or more creatures. So we're not there yet. So I think what I'm going to do is go with the Visionary here. I want to find another land. We did not, but Collected Company not so bad. And now we'll run out the Gnarlroot Trapper. So, all right, let's see what happens. You know, if we hit land, we could play Well, I guess not. I was trying to figure out if we could transform the Growing Rites next turn. If we'd hit land, I guess I could have. So now I have this much mana open. My opponent passing with 4, huh? I think the play... Poke in there with his Visionary. And we have to keep in mind, this only adds mana for elves. So... let's go with the Dwynen's Elite, I guess. See what happens. I actually messed this turn up a little bit here. I actually did momentarily forget it only made elf mana, and I should have played a Clancaller pre-combat. Not that it matters much. Our opponent going to syncopate here. I will not pay for that. That spell's exiled. I do have to deal myself a damage here. I guess I didn't have to. So slight misplays there on my part. May or may not turn out to be relevant, but we'll see. This is pretty good here for us, right? Depending on what our opponent has. I get to try a Growing Rites next turn. There's a Shaman of the pack. You know, I think I'm just going to go for the Growing Rites. If our opponent burns a counterspell on it, so be it. And if it resolves like this, it has quite a high upside. I get to get another Dwynen's Elite off the top from it. Move to combat here. Don't really want to attack, as it turns out. We're tapped out. I don't want to run my creatures into a shambling vent they can just activate. I'm going to attempt to transform this Growing Rites. I do believe this is an intervening if clause, which means the clause that you have to have 4 more creatures transform it, both has to be true when the trigger is on the stack and when it resolves. So if our opponent were to use a removal spell here, as it looks like they're going to do. Oh, they're just going to dig through time. All right. Anyways, if they had used a removal spell there, then I don't think it would have transformed if I'm understanding it correctly, which I may not be. But instead, they're going to dig. And that works out probably just fine for us because we get to transform the Growing Rites. We can tap it for 4 mana at any time now. So I can use this to cast a Collected Company. Basically, that's a 4 mana ramp spell. We paid 3 mana, got a creature out of it, and it ramps. So even if my opponent were to have a board wipe here, I could add the mana, let the board wipe resolve, and then cast a Collected Company to rebuild. And that's, when you're playing against these control decks, that's the kind of way you need to sequence. Let's see what they're up to. It also means when I untap, by the way, I have enough mana to just activate the Clancaller. It's a 1 mana build your own... I'm sorry, 2 mana, but a 1 creature build your own army here by activating it. We have, of course, the other one in our hand, but getting a second one means that our creatures can swing into the Shambling Vent. Let's see what my opponent wants to do, though. This is an interesting spot for them. We obviously don't know their hand, but 5 cards over there, having just dug through time, I have to assume they have plenty of options. I don't know if I would have guessed Elspeth, though. Okay, well, they're just... what this means is they're just going for it, right? They're paying their 6 mana, they're making their tokens, and we're going to hope that this Collected Company hits some good stuff here. Another Clancaller and a Dwynen's Elite. So I definitely want the Dwynen's Elite. I guess I have to take the Clancaller. I'm not thrilled about this because I do like the idea of keeping it in the deck, but getting another Llanowar Elves... probably not super relevant. This makes our team big and scary, at least. That's a lot. That's a lot we have out there. I mean, this is a very big Growing Rites that we can pull off right now. As a matter of fact, so I have access to a lot of mana. I mean, I wonder if there's a way to just kill our opponent. So we have the Shaman. Like, we might be able to piece together 18 points of damage here. That's what I'm saying. Let's figure this out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 mana. So plus 12 with the land in our hand. I could activate a clay. Excuse me. Sorry. Sneeze. I could activate a Clancaller here. Play a Clancaller. This is going to get mathy. Basically, can we get through enough damage? If I were to activate 1 Clancaller and, let's say, the Llanowar Elves, and everything else, I'm going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers getting in for 3 damage each at least. That's like 5. They have 3 blockers. I get in for 6 or so. I don't know if we can get there. All right, let's start things off with the easy part. Let's play this Dwynen's Elite. With this Kaya's Cradle here. This is essentially a neutral mana play. Okay, so let's say I were to just activate this. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'd have 9 mana. I could play the Clancaller. Nine mana. This puts me down to 7. Activate one of the others for 6. Let's say if I just played it. And then the Shaman. I would hit them for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The Shaman would do 11 damage. Okay, that puts them down to 7. I then swing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures. They block 3 of them. 4 get through, doing at least... Yeah, I guess we just have it, don't we? I'm just making this harder than it was. We just have it all already. Play the Clancaller out. Play the Shaman. Hit our opponent for a bunch. So I could use the elf to make enough mana to activate, but I think all we need to do is attack. Our opponent agrees. We took it down. All right, Mistcutter Hydra seem very good here. Shaper's Sanctuary seems good. Duress seems good. Do I want the Stain the Mind? I don't think so. They're not really a combo deck. They're just a control deck. That was a very interesting game, I'll say that. Okay, let's cut like this. This gets us down to 62 here. 61. Kind of like cutting another Marwyn. But maybe I just cut all the dorks, right? Maybe I just do this. This might be wrong, but... You know, mana dorks are simultaneously good and bad against a control deck like that, right? They're great, and they help you get out ahead, and you put out some threats. But on the other hand... Excuse me, they can be pretty medium, because you don't want to have... You play 3 mana dorks, they wipe the board, and then what are you going to do, right? But this actually works out just perfectly for us. We have the turn 1 Llanowar Elves. We are going to need to hit some green mana at some point to actually cast that Collected Company if this elf doesn't survive. But playing a turn 2 Steel-Leaf Champion is honestly pretty powerful because it beats down very quickly. And now with 2 Shaman in the packs and a Collected Company, we have a viable long-term game plan, you know, if this were to able to get a hit or 2 in. My opponent doesn't have Revolt, even if they have Fatal Push, so the Steel-Leaf Champion's safe for now from that, right? They could have a Fabled Passage or whatever, but I'm also not seeing any blue mana over there. They played 2 tap lands, and they're going to Moment of Craving our Llanowar Elves, so that's fine for them, but frankly, it's better for us because Steel-Leaf Champion is going to go to town here. I think I'm happy to just play... out. My opponent missed their land drop, so we want to beat down here. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Play out the Clancaller as well. Crash in there for 6, put him down to 16, and say, hey, deal with this. Moment of Craving, great card. This is a fun one in Standard. -2/-2, you gain 2 life. Incidental Life Gain, pretty good, especially control decks like this, but missing land drops, missing colors, and this is a little bigger than a Moment of Craving can handle. Yeah, and they're forced to just Erebos' Intervention, the Clancaller. They do gain some life off of that, but they're not dealing with the problem. You know, they are stemming the bleeding, so to speak. But that is it. I'm just gonna go for the company on the instep here. Beat in for 6. Well worth shocking myself. And yeah, we're telegraphing Collected Company, but what's my opponent going to do about it? They don't have lands, as a matter of fact. That is the match, everybody. Elves taking it down. Look, obviously we caught a break there. My opponent, they didn't hit their lands, etc. But they had 2 removal spells, and look at our hand, right? We were set up to play a longer game. There's not a ton of removal spells that a deck can reasonably play. Not a lot of Doomblades floating around these days that are going to deal with the Steel-Leaf Champion that early. It gets in a little bit of damage. It's not that hard to piece together another few points between Collected Company and Shaman in the pack. Elves taking down the control deck. All right. Let's get another one. This is going well so far. I'm going to keep Elvesing people. All right, more Elves, more Pioneer on the draw this time. But you know what? I'm into this hand as well. I love Elvish Visionary. This card just does it all right. It's just so unassuming, but so powerful at the same time. So, all right. So we've got an interesting draw here. Double Clancaller, double Visionary, double turn 1 mana, well, double 1 mana Dork. We're going to be able to spit out some nice stuff here. So on turn, I'm going to have 3 mana on turn 2. I can play out, I guess, probably a Visionary and a Llanowar Elves. Our opponent on a Jund mana base over there. Casting. Okay, this is a cool card. Agonizing Remorse from Theros Beyond Death. Your opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from their hand or their graveyard. Exile it. You lose a life. So it's kind of like a half Thoughtseize. You know, it costs more mana, but you don't lose as much life. But it can hit their graveyards. It's pretty neat. So they take a Clancaller. It probably makes the most sense for them. And now we will play a Visionary out. Lots of cards in the graveyard worth hitting, as it turns out. It's also a removal spell that isn't necessarily dead later on in the game, which is kind of a thing. So, all right, so we hit a Steel-Leaf Champion off of this. Board wipes might be a problem in the sideboard games coming out of the black-red deck, but as it stands now, we're going to untap with, you know, possibly 5 mana, a Steel-Leaf Champion and more. Glowspore Shaman. Okay. Interesting. They've milled a couple lands and a Pelt Collector, so they can put a land on top of their deck. That's what this card does. But it's a 3/1, so all of our creatures are actually good to just go ahead and continue attacking if we want to go that route. I think I'm just going to get in with the Visionary. Opponent not likely to block. Now I'm going to play another Visionary. Draw into our deck some more, hit another land. All right, I replayed my land this turn. And run out the Steel-Leaf Champion, so make our opponent deal with this here. So we've got plenty of small creatures that we're going to pump up bigger next turn with that Clancaller. But also a big one here, Steel-Leaf Champion can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Our opponent's certainly going to need a removal spell for that one. Ah, well, this is a bit of a concern. Kalidas, Traitor of Get. So, whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, that's us, they get to exile it instead and get a zombie. Now, the real problem is when they just start spamming removal spells at our board. Yeah, we'll see what we can do here. Play our Clancaller out. I think I just have to spam the board. I mean, they have 3 cards left. If they're removal, they're removal. I can get in there with my Steel-Leaf Champion this turn, see what my opponent wants to do, and I have another one to follow it up with. So we're going to put all of our creatures onto the board. We're going to have the mana to activate the Clancaller, and you know what? We'll see what our opponent wants to do about it, because they're going to chump block the Steel-Leaf Champion here, but little do they know, there's a second one coming. Now, if they do have some kind of mass removal spell, AoE board wipe, yeah, we're in trouble. They get a billion zombies, but as it stands right now, we put a lot of power into play. So, given that we have enough mana to activate the Clancaller, the attacks look pretty good for us, you know, barring my opponent having sort of an extraordinary card or several cards here. And just good old-fashioned Jund, I guess. Jund them out. Probably a pretty reasonable matchup against me, especially after sideboard. I can only assume that they have some kind of red or black sweeper, so these games might get a little more difficult after we board. But hopefully we have an aggro enough start here to just go ahead and to tear through what they're looking at. And if we untap, now we have the ability to activate a Clancaller. Here comes whatever it is. in our draw step, no less. All right, it's a K command, making us discard and killing our Clancaller. So, I mean, I guess I'm fine with that, really. Look, we're not discarding anything particularly relevant. We could activate the Clancaller, go get another one. It's not enough to save it, unfortunately, but it could be worse. Now, the downside for us, of course, is my opponent is, you know, kind of doing their thing over there, right? In terms of Kalitas, they got the zombies and everything going on here. And they can, remember, they can sack those zombies, or vampires if they have them, to grow the life-linking Kalitas. So they're down to 2 cards. We get to slam in with these 6/5 Seal Leafs that can't be blocked by the zombie, which means my opponent might just be taking 12 here. You know, it's not a position they probably really want to be in. But the zombie can't chump block, and the Kalitas certainly, really, they can't afford for it to chump block. But that helps. An Abrupt Decay on our second Clancaller. So the zombies still can't block. There's no double block my opponent can line up, as they're going to find out here. They fall to 6, but the bad news for us is they're starting to build up quite a board over there. They can start feeding them to the Kalitas if they want. Yeah, this is... There's a potential to go downhill for us here. Another Glowspore Shaman, also able to jump in front of Steel Leaf Champion if they need it to. As a matter of fact, I think that we could be in trouble here, because here's the thing. The Kalitas can eat one of these. I think we might be dead. They have no cards in hand, but the Kalitas can eat one of our Steel Leaf, one of their zombies. It then becomes, they get 2 counters, right? Yeah, they do. So it becomes a 5/6, which is enough to block the Steel Leaf. So even if we were to swing out, if they put the Glowspore in front of one, the Kalitas in front of the other, the zombies in front of 2 of our creatures, we're not getting in for 6 damage, and we're losing creatures to the Kalitas. So, yeah, our opponent has effectively stymied our attack here. That's a very powerful card. I guess I probably need Fatal Pushes, just given, even though we have to have Revolt. But as you can see, this card just solos games. They're winning this game right now solely off the back of this Kalitas. So we're going to need to find answers to them. And we still have lots of good draws on our deck. Elvish Visionary coming down here. We can find Collected Companies or Lords or so on. Overgrown Tomb. Not quite what we were looking for. Now let's see what my opponent's up to. Oh, wow. They did not miss on their draw step. They had a Murderous Rider instead, which is going to be more lifelink hitting the field. Another zombie for them. And I think they might have this one. We're going to need some Collected Companies to make things work here. Well, you know what? Gnarlroot Trapper is actually pretty good. Our opponent has 1 card in hand. Gnarlroot Trapper works. Remember I said in the deck tech, this is turns your bad cards into good cards, right? That's what Gnarlroot Trapper does. And that's what we're going to be able to do next turn if we get to untap with it. Now, our opponent still has a lot of stuff working for him, but the one thing we have going for us is they only have 1 creature that can block the Seal Leaf that they're willing to sort of give up. So they basically have to use the Kalitas, because this is just a chump block. These can't block it, and we could give it Death Touch to get Kalitas off the battlefield. Of course, we'll see what our opponent's up to here. You know what? I don't care much about Pelt Collector and a land. So, okay. It looks like we are in the clear here. Oh, that's an interesting attack. I'm about to throw a lot of things in front of this, I think. So they have 6 mana. They can give this thing 10 toughness. Do they get zombies? This is bad. Maybe I just take it. Just taking it's kind of bad too, though. Chump block it. This is non-token, right? Alright, new plan. Chump block with the token. My opponent gets the life out of it, but they don't get any more zombies. We get to keep our board. And that's a collected company, so now we have options. I think I might swing out. I won't lie. I'm thinking about it. Probably just company main phase. I don't really think we gain much by company in combat, and it could very well inform what we choose to do here. As you can see, sometimes the game's easy, right? Sometimes the game's just an easy one. Alright, I want to make sure Oh yeah, so there you go. Or as it turns out, we can just hit our opponent for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 with a Shaman of the Pack. Look, I thought we were in trouble there. I thought for a minute we were definitely dead, but you know what? We were not. That worked out very well. All right, I want almost all of these cards over here, to be honest. The Marwyns seem medium. The Dwynen seems medium. We'll cut. This time I'm keeping the Gnarlroot Trappers. They seem very important. That gets us down to 61. I think this is fine. You know, I could keep the Duresses. I could cut a Duress. I could also just run 61 cards. I'm a rebel. No one tells me what to do. I don't think I want any of the rest of this. I think this is all pretty reasonable to keep in the sideboard here. I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to play something like 3 Fatal Pushes. Maybe that's better. Because we want answers to the Kalitas, but we do actually have to, you know, still have a game plan here. And so this, I mean, it really only takes basically, right, 1 Fatal Push to answer. They're unlikely to have more than 1 Kalitas in a relevant time fashion. And I do like the Duresses because going into the sideboard game here, our opponent's deck is just going to be chock full of removal. So we want as many opportunities as possible to interact with that. Yeah, whether it's Anger of the God. I assume it's, well, the thing is, Anger of the Gods or something like Cry of the Carnarium-esque cards, they exile. I don't know how that works with Kalitas. It seems like they just want an actual Pyroclasm that deals damage and doesn't exile the creatures so that they get their zombies. But I think the way it works is it's a replacement effect, and so is Kalitas, so maybe they get to choose what to exile it to. Not sure. Let's just make them discard those cards, and then it won't matter anyways. Fatal Push the Kalitas. They're going deep on sideboard. I don't think we want the Hydras. Protection for blue doesn't matter. It is a nice mana sink, but I don't think that we're going to need it. Uh-oh, our opponent is disconnected. All right, well, if they come back, I'll pick this recording back up. All right, into game 2 here against our Jund opponent, and this hand definitely looks like a keeper. We've got our Mana Dorks. We've even got, I love this one here, Shaper's Sanctuary. This is one of my favorite sideboard cards in the format. Whenever a creature we control becomes the target of a spell or ability our opponent controls, and if you recall the last game, they had quite a few of those. We're going to play it. We get a draw card when they do that. So I'm going to actually run this out here first for a couple reasons. I mean, one, if they're going to, you know, have a removal spell for our turn 1 Mana Dork, I want to draw a card off of it. But also because it doesn't really necessarily slow us down all that much. I guess we also get to protect it from an Agonizing Remorse. But I was going to say we have 2 Mana Dorks to play on turn 2. So I guess we don't have the turn 2 Steel-Leaf Champion if everything went perfectly. But you know, our hand is pretty good here. We can plan for a situation where things don't go perfectly by running Shaper's Sanctuary out there, protecting it from Agonizing Remorse, and now our opponent gets our Steel-Leaf with this. So that's fine. We still get on tap, play both of these. They do anything to deal with our board, we get to draw cards. And if they don't, then we get to cast this Collected Company later. So this is just an insane card to have on turn 1. And there's our Fatal Push that they don't know that we have, which is nice, given that we just drew it. They have access to our hand, which is powerful information, but not knowing that means, you know, they may be more likely to run out of Kalitas, and then we can try to take it down. So, remember, Gnarlroot Trapper does not cast Collected Company, although this really should be an honorary elf spell, you know? Tribal instant elf. But we just need to find one more land to make that happen. There's a Goblin Rabblemaster. Well, okay. That is a different way to go about things. That is an angle I have to say I was not quite prepared for. And I can't really block this one. I don't want to do that. I want to keep access to my mana here. Here's a Marwyn. That doesn't do much for us necessarily. I guess the play... You know, here's the thing. I actually can't cast this Fatal Push, so... We play our Dwynen's Elite out. Let's just, I will do some blocking now. If this... You know, the good news is with the Elite out, we can at least eat the tokens from the Rabblemaster every turn. And with now some more bodies in play, we can throw a team in front of a Rabblemaster if it decides to get frisky as well. So they bring him in, and they are going to do this. Okay. Well, this is actually a very interesting turn. I kind of think I like doing this. This might be wrong. I actually like these blocks. I like the idea of keeping the Elite, and if my opponent does have a removal spell or something that they wanted to use in combat, which it looks like they're going to do here, yeah, this is... I didn't want them to get to push our Elite and us get nothing out of that combat. So instead, what happens by making this block is, yeah, they do get to eat our creatures here with this, but we still kind of gain something from the combat, not just because we draw a card off their removal spell, but because we get to eat the Goblin token, and basically that's not such a big deal for us. I mean, we traded a token. That was basically a 1-for-1, and now we got an extra card off of the deal. I am going to need some lands at some point here. That is certainly a thing. That is true, but we had to play a Clancaller out, making this Elvish Mystic a 2/2, which can also block the Goblins. So look, this game becomes very simple. Basically, if we either draw black mana or just draw a fourth source of mana here to cast Collected Company, we have a much more straightforward path to beating the Rabblemaster. But if I had gone for the sort of what seems like the simple block last turn, right, where you just put the 2/2 in front of the Rabblemaster, we would have been in a much worse position on this turn. You know, that said, Liliana puts us in a pretty bad position anyways. I would like to use this ability. I really like to hit some different mana here. Our Clancaller is going to hit the bin. Let's see if my opponent brings the Rabblemaster in this time. They do. Okay, well, I mean, now I have to go for the block, right? We don't really have a choice but to throw this out here. And it works, so... Our opponent has 2 goblins. They have a Liliana. That's a problem. We can't seem to draw lands, but a Steel-Leaf Champion is still pretty good. Our opponent's down to 2 cards. I mean, look, Liliana gets to regrow the Rabblemaster, and then they can cast it. So, you know, a lot of things can still go wrong for us here. Oh, that's relevant. They just gave us black mana. This is now a forest swamp, and this is now a swamp. So now I could actually have some hope to take out this Rabblemaster. That, however, is a questing beast. Can't say I expected that one. I guess I'm going to take the 4. Our opponent's just on some sort of Jund aggro value deck. I like it. Jund monsters or something. I would like to use this ability. Alright, we finally hit a land here. Our Mystic hits the bin. This thing is legit a problem. There's no way around that. I think the play is to play the Mystic. Pass the turn without attacking, which, trust me, feels pretty bad. But basically the only way I think we have to deal with the Liliana is to kill the questing beast with a fatal push. So yeah, they're going to give me revolt here by doing this. I'm going to draw cards. I get to take this thing out now. And then hopefully, with this gone, I can attack my opponent with my Steel-Leaf Champion that can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less to hit Liliana before they get to an emblem. That's the plan, anyways. And for what it's worth, we have Revolt and another Fatal Push up here. So if our opponent has removal, we're going to be in trouble, right? There's kind of no way around that. But this was the way to give us a shot at winning this game, given how mana screwed we were. This Shaper Sanctuary has been great, but unfortunately, the swift end means that this stupid Liliana is probably going to ultimate before we can do anything about it. And I kind of wish I hadn't played that land pre-combat, huh? Well, this is all pretty bad for us. That misplay might come back to get me, to be quite honest. In fact, it really, really is. Oof. Oh, yeah, because I could have just passed turn with Collected Company up, which would have given us basically our only hope. Wow, our opponent's going to return a creature, huh? Returning the that's huge for us. I don't think we had a way to stop the emblem, and we're not going to beat an emblem. Instead, they go for returning the questing beast to their hand, which, look, is the Rabblemaster, or it's the second Rabblemaster. Look, an understandable play, certainly. But one that actually gives us a shot here, which I don't really think that we had otherwise. All right, block one, get Revolt, and push down the Rabble. Whoa. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Okay. That probably doesn't make a terrible amount of difference, though. Turns out I accidentally hit the pass button instead of the OK once button. Yep, play's just got to be to pass back, cast Collected Company in their end step, and hope that we can get at this Liliana, which is just completely taking this game over. That misclick was pretty rough. I guess our opponent gave us a little bit of a gift there, but now the questing beast. Okay. I assume they're going to come in with the team. We're going to need a good Collected Company here. Yep, okay. That's a lot of damage. Steel-Leaf Champion and Shaman of the Pack, huh? Okay. There are worse cards we could hit, I suppose. We are, unfortunately, taking quite a bit of damage here, but I think that these blocks are good. We take 7. Our opponent can't kill the Steel-Leaf here. I make sure not to misclick through the end step this time. And we can hit this in the end step with our Fatal Push. Then we can take down the Liliana, the last hope, in theory. Maybe not. I guess they could just giving it -2 makes that kind of rough. But hopefully we then don't die to all these goblins. My opponent also might choose to go for the minus ability on this just to get back a Rabblemaster, which is a reasonable line. Now they're going to go ahead and plus. Okay. Looks like they plus but didn't actually choose to use it. Alright, so now we get to hit the questing beast. This might have worked out better for us, honestly. We'll see. A Duress, huh? I don't think there's anything they could have that... I don't know that I need a Duress, but I guess I will. It's the difference between... I guess if it's a removal spell, Duress isn't going to stop this anyway, so we just have to swing at Liliana here and hope that it works. And look at that, it does. All right, we have hope. So now I think the play is to play a Gnarlroot Trapper and go for a company when they swing. They got 3 tokens over there. It's not lethal because we have a Gnarlroot Trapper up. And we have the company, and then we get to untap after that and play a Marwyn with a Dwynen's Elite. I mean, I don't think we're out of the woods yet here, but we've got a shot, at least. We have a chance. All right, here comes my opponent. Bringing in the goons. All right, not the worst by any means here. All right, so we should have enough here to deal with all of our opponent's tokens. I mean, we're at 3 life, so that is going to be a problem till the game's over, right? That isn't going to stop, but we have the opportunity to at least not take any damage in theory on this combat step, and then hopefully the cards in our hand are better than the cards in our opponent's hand. Let's see what they have. They were posturing at casting something pre-combat. Now, the thing is, we can't beat a questing beast as it currently stands, so that's something to keep in mind here. All right, second main phase. It is a swift end on our Steel-Leaf champion. That seems perfectly fine. I'll draw a card off of the deal. And they're just going to cast the Murderous Rider. Okay, so I'm assuming they're stuck on land over there. We'll probably get the opportunity to Duress to find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. Then again, maybe I won't. I don't really want to pay the life, so I think I play a Marwyn. And now I play a Dwynen's Elite here. So I guess I can attack into the Swift Rider. This is nice because this can actually now chump block chump block, but it's something that we can throw at a questing beast. I'm guessing my opponents. I mean, I just don't think it's worth shocking ourselves, and I didn't think it was worth going down to 2 and dying to Wild Slash to cast Duress here. And I mean, if that's the line I've chosen to take, I think I have to stay committed to that. I do think that I can attack with this. This seems like a reasonably free attack for us. All right, we'll trade this off for the Murderous Rider. All right, so I'd say, I mean, both players are top decking here. Both players have good top decks. The problem for our opponent is that removal is not very good for them. This Shaper Sanctuary has been MVP. I'm going to be very sad if we lose this game after drawing like 10 cards off a Sanctuary. All right, our opponent running out of land, which they decide to shock into play. Well, that worries me a little bit. 3 mana. 4. Let's find out. Oh, that's why we don't go to 2. We're down to 1. They get their questing beast back. This is still very bad for us, though. Oh, no. Oh, no. What a tragedy. We have to chump block. We can only chump block with the 1 creature. Now we're in trouble. Now we have to top deck our way out of this. Oof, that doesn't do it. What a pity. What a tragedy that was. That was a nice draw. I guess it's possible they had it all along, but considering they didn't do anything on the previous turn, that seems unlikely. Wow, that was big sad, I won't lie. All right, on to the next one. Now I know what their deck looks like a little more. Their deck is very interesting, I'll say that. I like Marwyn a little more on the play here. I understand it looks like we're cutting down a lot in these, and I mean, frankly, we are, but we still have 8, right? Or we have 7. That's still quite a few. We need to make one more cut somewhere. I like all these cards, though, is the thing. Well, this is pretty ballsy, right? To cut all the mana dorks like this, but hey, we have one anyways. We did it. The thing is, we still have more than 4, right? We still have more than a playset. Now, the thing is, this is the 1 mana dork. I made this decision to get the ones that to keep the ones, you know, that help us attack, but it does not help us cast Collected Company for what it's worth. So we'll see what our opponent has over here. They didn't mulligan. They kept 7. I mean, the companies are great for us if we can cast them even on time. I mean, ramping them is clearly better, but even on time is pretty good. So our opponent's going to shock themselves and push our Trapper. Okay. That's fine with us, given that that Trapper didn't actually, doesn't actually help us cast the Collected Companies. I'm going to choose not to play out the Elite as a 2/2. I'm kind of valuing the zombie here, or the token that we can make from it. Maybe that's right, but I don't know. We avoid shocking this way too, because if it comes to it, you know, next turn we can play land, have the Elite plus the Fatal Push open. Our opponent's going to Glowspore Shaman. Okay. They can put a Castle Lockwain on top of their deck. That's nice. They didn't. They chose to go with the basic, it looks like. Oh, look, there's a Marwyn. So don't think I have, you know, huge hopes for this surviving to untap, but it does kind of mess them up in the sense that it's a threat that they basically have to deal with because of how scary it is. But it means they can't, you know, it takes them off playing Rabble Master. And that mana, well, or they're just going to play Rabble Master, but that works out for us too, I think. We have to take a big hit here, but this means we're going to have a pretty decent setup when we untap. Hitting a land would be great, but even without it, I think we're okay. A Trapper, so this is pretty cool, actually. I have some options here, but I can go Trapper and Elite. This will have 4 power. I can then use that to company when they attack me. I'm very glad now in retrospect that I did hold that Elite, and I mean, this is why I did it, but yeah, this works out pretty well here. I can throw an Elite. I mean, I'm gonna have so many options when they do get to combat. The Glowspore Shaman, I can throw a token in front of. This is not an ideal situation for my opponent. This has been a great match. This has been really fun. It's an interaction heavy deck from them, but also one that plays big creatures of their own while we are doing our thing. And Questing Beast is a good play from them here, but I think it's one that I'm more okay with, frankly, because we'll figure out something for that, right? We'll hit a Steel Leaf Champion and block it. And it means they're tapped out. It's just going to make my blocks very straightforward here with this Collected Company. And I'm going to do this pre-combat because I want to... Oh my gosh. Ouch. Well... That was big sad. I was going to say I want to use the cards I company into. Oh man, that was devastating, wasn't it? I wanted to use the cards I collected companied into to block. I was expecting to get to, even if I didn't get a trade with the beast, I'd get to eat the tokens. I was oh wow, just the full-on whiff, huh? That was pretty painful. Now, you know, the good news, there might not be any good news. It's another Rabble Master. Okay. Well, this one's going to have to be better. We do have the Fatal Pushes here to hit the Questing Beast post-combat, but we're just taking so much damage. All right. Can't miss twice, right? All right, that looks a little better. And you know what? Double Dwynen's Elite looks pretty good to me. Alternatively, we could take like Clancaller Shaman, and then Shaman could trade with... Okay, I'm starting to get somewhere here. Shaman could get 4, trade with the Questing Beast. The Clancaller means that... I guess there's a bunch of options here, but the Clancaller means that this can block a token. We're taking 2 at that point, and then I get to push this away and still save a push. It's that or get 2 elites. Have a bunch of... We get all kinds of blocks there, but then I have to take 4 and go down to 6 off of the beast. We do clear more of the board that way. We're at a lower life total, but we clear more of the board. So do I want to play for the board, or do wherein we have more control over the token swarm, or do I want to preserve removal? Wow, this is a hard call here. I think maybe I get the elites. It's a hard, honestly, it is hard. I'm not sure, if what's correct here, but I think having more things in play is probably good. It's a very big Marwyn, by the way, we have also. I'll go down to 6 here. Let's see if they don't have a follow-up. Get the Questing Beast out of here. I guess, do I have lethal? Oh, I just have lethal. Ah, but there's no Urborg this time around. Sad day. Another Fatal Push, okay. But the thing is, this is lethal, right? This is 8, 12, 14. So I get attack with everything. I think that this works. Then again, it's also just kind of no risk if I just attack with the Marwyn. My opponent, it's pretty bad for them, right? They have to chump block or take a giant hit. And we could get burned for this, but it feels okay to me. And this is how we get burned, is them having a fatal push, but maybe not. Okay. They were bluffing it. They were bluffing the fatal push. I like it. Now, I mean, the reality is they probably would have used it on their turn if they had it. Sure, I guess. That happens. We do still have an 8-8, though. Make that a 9. 10-10, actually. Oops. I'm going to use my mana the right way here. Well, this is interesting, though. I mean, my opponent... look, I don't know what's the right call on that. I could attack with everything. It's lethal. It forces a block, not a chump block. Then I use a fatal push. Yeah, I don't know if this is fine for my opponent, but not good enough, because if they don't know, we're going to show them now that we have the fatal push. Remove their chump blocker. Swing in with Marwyn the Nurturer. That elf and her baby are going places, all right? Winning the match for us. Completing the 3-0 with elves in Pioneer. Everybody, thank you for watching. I'm Corbin Hosler. I love this deck in this format. Any format where elves is a good deck, fair elves, right? Not combo elves. Any format where fair elves is a good deck, that's a good format. Pioneer is a good format. That was a great set of matches, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.